Hello and welcome to the Media Center series of Local Heroes, in which we showcase a total of 6 people from Atherton, East Palo Alto, Stanford, and Menlo Park for outstanding achievements and contributions to the community. We took nominations from several people, and we were particularly looking for the unsung heroes. We're here at Cafe Baroni, right next to Kepler's in downtown Menlo Park, as you know, both local heroes in their own rights. Paul Bains is senior pastor at the St. Samuel Church in East Palo Alto. He has put together a whole cluster of nonprofit programs that have substantially benefited the people of East Palo Alto. He also lives with the ongoing challenge of raising 3 beautiful daughters who have sickle cell anemia. Paul, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Congratulations on your award. I mentioned that you have like a whole cluster of nonprofit programs. I'd rather you describe them than me. So let's go through them and just talk about what they are kind of briefly, one at a time. BFM is a janitorial employment program, if I have it right.
That's correct.
Tell me what that is, and then give me an example of where that really worked.
Okay. Well, we were very blessed to start this business, my wife and I, Cheryl Bains, in 1993, and we had landed a contract 2 years ago in East Palo Alto at IKEA, and it was a sizable contract, and we were able to hire people of community. 80% of our employees came right out of the East Palo Alto community. There were people that sometimes, say, the corporate world would not offer a job to, but we screened them, we helped train them, and we were very blessed to help them, some get off of dependencies, such as the welfare, and get their own apartments and contribute.
So you basically created this to help people get jobs who might not otherwise have them.
When we first started the business in '93, yes, that was part of our philosophy. It's part of our principles.
Give me an example of a success story.
Okay. Well, one day I was sitting in front of our office in the truck, and a person who I guess had been living on the street or somewhere, just wasn't decently dressed, came by, and then he stopped, and then he came back to my truck and said, "Mr. Bains, if you give me a job, it could really help me. It could help me change my lifestyle." And when we landed that IKEA contract, I remembered him. I got his name and his number, and I saw him at the barbershop. So I said, "We found a job for you if you're interested." And he ended up coming, getting trained, and ended up cutting his hair, getting a uniform, getting his own apartment, being able to contribute to his family's needs. And that's a success story in our book, being able to help somebody to be an individual contributor. So we're very proud of that.
I know you mentioned you have kind of a 3-pronged approach. You have like the social needs, the physical needs, and the spiritual needs. You've also created something called Project We Hope. What is that, and what does that do?
Project We Hope. Well, We Hope stands for We Help Other People Excel. And my wife and I, and we also have a volunteer staff of another 2 others, Pastor J.D. Ward and Emily Gislason, who just is our new office manager. It's an organization that goes and helps youth primarily. We've helped over 9,000 youth in the Santa Clara and San Mateo County deal with suspension program. It's a family intervention program.
How does that work?
Well, for instance, we have a program called STAND, Students Taking a New Direction. And what this does is that kids that were going to be kicked out of school and wouldn't have any place to go, they have to go into our program. And what we do, we instill values and principles and teach them that it's wrong to get kicked out of school or to even want to be kicked out of school. And so it's a deterrent. And it also doesn't allow them to go and get into trouble by just being kicked out of school.
So you're a liaison, you're a safe place to go, but also you try to kind of raise the bar a little bit. What kind of success have you had?
Well, we've had we served over 9,000 kids since the inception of this program. And we've had awards given from the county of Santa Clara, because we started off in that school district. And we've also enabled us to give students scholarships when we did a fundraiser through our Succeed program.
Wow.
So I would say that's success.
Another part of this cluster of programs is House of Hope. What problem does that address?
That deals primarily with young men, 18 to, it was actually 18 to 50, but we're focusing that now to 18 to 30. And it deals with emancipated youth, troubled youth, youth that don't have any place to go, that are homeless.
By emancipated, you mean out of prison?
Out of prison,
Right.
out of jail, youth, any type of state or federal county programs where they were locked up in. And it gives them a place to stay. And so there's a lot of programs out there, but there's not a lot for young men. And so we saw that need, and we were trying to address that need within our community.
Yeah, give me some numbers. You told me some numbers about recidivism and that were pretty appalling.
Well, recidivism is very appalling. You have on any given day about 635,000 prisoners being released in a given year. And within that, 60% of those end up going back into prison because all they get is $200 and a place to stay for 1 week or 2 weeks, and then they're out by themselves. They may not have family that can support them. They may not have a place to go. So this home will also allow, it won't, of course, offer a home to everybody, but it'll be a starting place to help a few.
And you also go in early, don't you? Do you think that's part of the secret?
Well, yeah, that's part of the program because it's through our city, the city of East Palo Alto, and our Chief Ron Davis, that East Palo Alto was selected for this overall program, and Project We Hope is playing a role in that. And it's not just Project We Hope, but it'll be other entities that will be also a part of this process as
But
well.
you work with them before they're released, right?
Yes, you would go into the prison, work with them a minimum 6 months prior to their being released, helping them and doing an assessment. And then from there, we would find a place for them to stay and hopefully jobs, skill building, and all that kind of stuff. And it's a conglomerate of entities that would be doing this process because no one agency or one person can do this. But Project We Hope is just taking a lead role in this.
What kind of success rates have you seen with that program?
Well, it's new. The formal program has not been established, but Project We Hope, House of Hope has been going on for 6 years. So we've been doing this without the help of the county, without the help of the state and what have you. We just have been doing it with our own resources. But now it's time to tap in some other resources because we've basically been running out of finances to do the program on our own.
Yeah, sounds familiar. Now, what about the third prong, which is obviously your turf, and that's the spiritual side. You work with law enforcement? Tell me about that.
Well, we founded the chaplaincy program about a year and a half ago. And unfortunately, we lost an officer, Richard May, this year, January 7th. And the chaplaincy in East Palo Alto has never had a chaplaincy. And we saw a need that we need to go out there and be able to minister to the police officers as well as the community at large. And we need to be able to minister to the different faiths as well as the different cultures in our community. And God laid it upon our heart to start this chaplaincy. There's two types of chaplaincies. There's a law enforcement chaplain and there's the community chaplain. And so we've established those two as our primary chaplains, and they go out, the law enforcement service, the police department, the staff, their families. The community chaplains services the entire community.
So when you say go out, what do you actually do?
We respond to shootings, homicides, death notifications. We also do weddings and formal inaugural processes, swearing-ins, blessing the grounds, and things of that nature. So it's a wide variety, hospital visits as well. We're not just limited to certain things. We're kind of focusing on the needs of the community, but those needs can go outside of our community, like going to a hospital, obviously, even though those people may live in our community.
So you take people who are trained in the church to begin with, and then kind of give them a special training for this program. Is that how it works for law enforcement?
They have to have a license or they have to be ordained. And then from there, they go through a training process where they have to commit to many hours. They have to go to briefings. They have to do ride-alongs with the police department. And they have to have background checks done as well. And after those things are done, then if the committee that meets along with the chief of police and police department, Lieutenant Alipio, then they would go through an approval process. And once they're approved, then they're able to go out and serve the community.
Are you in some ways first responders yourselves?
Yes, we are. If there's a trauma or a crisis in our community, if we're kind of fortunate, some of us are pastors in our community that are chaplains as well. And so we kind of already know the lay of the land, we know the community, and they're calling us sometimes before they even call the police department. But the police department does a great job at calling us. As soon as they hear about a shooting or a killing, we're the second person they're calling. And we're out there to calm the crowd, to be the liaison between the community and the law enforcement. There's been many instances where we have to go out there and the community's in uproar. They want to know what's going on. And so we're kind of like a mouthpiece for law enforcement, as well as we're a mouthpiece for the community to, help deal with sensitive issues.
Can you give me maybe some examples of particularly difficult or meaningful instances where you've gone out and really made a difference? You or anyone of your team that you know of?
Well, it's kind of hard because some of those things are very personal. We've dealt with, suicides. We've dealt with people being murdered, and we had to go and calm the family down. And it's really a ministry of presence, because there's no right or wrong way to deal with death. And we're there to help calm their spirits and say, look, you're not alone. We're here. We're going through this with you. And to just kind of help guide and coach them through it and make sure that people don't get, too riled up, because we've been in this community all of our lives, most of us, that a lot of people know us and they respect us just from being a leader in the community. So I guess that's kind of an example.
Well, of all the different things you do, and this is probably only a few of them, what's the most difficult or challenging?
Balance, making sure that I'm spiritually fed and I'm spiritually in the place where I can properly minister to others, because there is a lot that's going on and we're engaged in a lot within our community that sometimes my family suffers, because I'm constantly on the go, and I thank God for my wife being as strong as she is. So that would be, I would say, my biggest challenge, is making sure I'm being spiritually fed and spiritually maintaining a focus that will help others.
Well, it sounds that you have just about every challenge imaginably. First of all, there's the financial one in what you do. There's the amount of time, and it must be just very draining. Why do you do it?
I would have to say that's my relationship, that's my faith that encourages me. Without that, it's kind of a drive that I guess my family has instilled in me as well. My father, my brothers, my sisters, they all have owned their own businesses and been drivers at their own right. And my father left Texas and came here with $2 in his pocket and found 2 jobs the very same day. And he would always say the more you can do and do it. And so I guess I try to fulfill that saying, I guess.
Well, you've sustained a fair amount of financial hardship because you're giving it away all the time. One example, tell me about, when with your house, I think, was probably a really difficult time, but name another one if you like to. Does that ever shake your faith? Tell me about that incident and how it affected you.
Well, I don't mind sharing this because I believe it will encourage and help somebody else. And that is, we give a lot, and sometimes we give so much that we hurt ourselves in the process because we haven't properly planned it out. I have to take ownership to it, and I jeopardized my own family's well-being because we were giving and giving and giving and not receiving an income. And I told my wife I'd never allow us to be in that position again, and so we're working on that. I did ask God, okay, why is this happening when we're trying to help so many different people? Why are we going through?
You almost lost your house, is that correct?
We almost lost our house. That's correct. That was this year in October, and then God provided someone to come in and step in and help us with our house to keep our house. And some of that's pride, though. Sometimes we won't accept help from people, or we won't even tell people we need help. Really, is what the issue is. And I had to find out that's a form of pride, and I have to allow people to help us and help our organization, because that's what they're doing. They're helping the organization when they're helping us as individuals. So.
But at moments like that, doesn't it seem to shake your faith?
it doesn't shake my faith, but what it does, it causes me to question, what am I doing wrong? Because God is not doing anything wrong. It's where am I not hearing him speak to me so I could follow the path and direction that he wants me to go in. Because just because I'm doing a lot of good with a lot of different people a lot of times, it doesn't mean that I should be trying to have the Messiah complex, where I'm supposed to be everyone's savior. And Shakespeare said himself, charity begins at home, then spreads abroad. And sometimes when I'm so busy, I'm not listening to God's voice, and then I'm actually causing maybe more harm to my own family and my own good than I realize sometimes. But I'm learning through that process. I am learning.
There does certainly sound like a rock solid faith, unshakable. To people who don't have that, that must seem very appealing because it's comforting. And it's kind of scary not to have that faith in a way. And in some ways, it's harder not to. What do you say to people who maybe don't have it but wish they did?
To me, all people have to believe in something. And that there's going to be challenges in life no matter who you are or where you came from, no matter how much money you do or don't have. And I just thank God that I have a relationship with God through his son that has allowed me to depend upon him and trust on him. Okay, God, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. I don't know how this problem is going to get solved, whether it's for me or for someone else, but I'm going to have enough faith to trust you that you're going to help this problem get resolved. And we have a little model that we say, we never retreat, we only reload. And I say that at our church, I say that in our nonprofit project, We Hope, and I say that in business. When times get real rough, you say, God, we need your help. I'm never going to retreat. I'm only going to reload from the faith that I have in you.
So taking this to the personal, the family level, how does that fit in? First of all, sickle cell anemia, for people who don't know what it is, what are the symptoms and what's it like to live with it?
Well, my three daughters all have, well, two of my three daughters have sickle cell anemia, the disease. My other daughter has the trait like I do. And what that is a blood disorder that's very painful. And my sister died of the complications of the disease. And so my family's very sensitive to the disease, obviously. We've almost lost my daughters a few times when they were in the hospital, and we just thank God that God stepped in and touched them where they're still with us, and they still will be with us. And God has also spoken our spirit that they will be healed. We're just waiting for the manifestation to take place. I would encourage anybody, whatever they have, whatever type of disease, if they have cancer, if they have AIDS, no matter what they have, is to trust God, and that no matter what may come up in their life, that if they still rely upon God as being their way maker and their mind regulator and their burden bearer, that brings a calm, it brings about a peace within it. Everything could be falling down around them or what have you, but when you have your trust in God, to me it brings about a peace above all, without any type of pressure that can come upon your life that will keep you focused. So.
How has it changed you as a person?
My daughter's having the disease, or it keeps me on my knees. It's hard, and sometimes I think I have major problems in life with whatever we're dealing with, whether it's Project We Hope or the church. But then I look to my daughters. I look to Ariel and Rachel and Gabrielle, and I look at their resiliency and how they keep on. They persevere through their praying. They persevere when they can't do things that other kids can do, and they actually excel in other things that other kids don't do. You know, one of them draws, the other one cooks very well, and the other one's just very fast, Gabrielle, fast runner. And they encourage me, and I get my motivation from them. I get my drive from them as well, and from my wife, Cheryl, who's right there, strong, and who helps encourage me, and who helps take my children to the hospital, to the doctor's appointments, and all that. And so that's something we come together and we just enjoy ourselves.
Of all the many ills that surround you, if you had a magic wand and your first wish would come true, what would it be?
That people with diseases would be healed immediately or within a time frame, but at some point in time before they leave this earth, that they would become healed, particularly those children, but all adults, you know, anyone that has chronic diseases.
Before we go, are there any other, is there any contact information or details that you'd like to give out that we can tell people about?
Project We Hope could use people coming to help to be advocates for some of our young men and some of our young ladies that we're working with, if anybody wants to help. We accept donations, of course, to help sustain our programs. We've been doing all this on our own, and we're just now reaching out to the federal government and whoever else will help us. And Project We Hope, you can reach us at 650-325-8000. And our mailing address is P.O. Box 51376, Palo Alto, California, 94303.
Great, we'll let people know. Now, before you go, we have a little plaque here for you.
Wow, thank you.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. We are at Cafe Baroni in downtown Menlo Park, and we encourage you to come on down and have a cappuccino or hot chocolate, maybe go next door to Kepler's and buy a book or two. We want to thank Baroni's for having us here, and thank you for watching.